Hello, this is the voice in your head. I have just a few updates, something I've been working on here and there. Something really more visible other than the backend stuff. The first one being smoke grenades. The vanilla ones are sort of okay. Wind blows them off pretty easily, and you need usually like quite a few of them to cover any area. The Ace one are better with their optional particles PBO. They need a custom texture though and look kind of cartoonish. So what I did here is that I simply increased the size of the cloudlets by, I think, 1.5 times and increased the rate of spreading their velocity by the same amount. So they're not perfect, but they are kind of alright. Moving swiftly on onto some darker scenes. This is something that bugs me still, and that's the vanilla whatever 1.5 something update basically broke lighting, right? It made everything HDR, it made the skies sort of more realistic, but it made also everything much darker and much more contrasty, to the point where you have a flashlight that it doesn't do much in the night. And for like fires as seen here are where I think the most affected, and lamp lights as well. Like there's this cool shot I have from Fallujah, night lit and all the street light just illuminating the air, and you just don't get that. Here I've simply reduced some quadratic attenuation. As you can see, that helps quite a bit. It's only for fireplaces and some barrels and some effects as we see later, but every bit helps. And hopefully this will make for a bit more like atmospheric missions. Imagine like a soldier standing next to the barrel. It's not just about fireplaces though. Flashes and other effects are affected too. See that tree on the right? It didn't even get flashed from the grenade explosion. Same as the trees on the left. Like, see how little the actual flash from the grenade, how far it goes, right? So I did some small tweaking. Again, look at the tree to the right. I didn't actually change the intensity, I don't think. I just reduced the quadratic attenuation, and that seems to make quite a big of a difference. Especially visible with rockets and missiles, which, suddenly look cool in the night. Now, moving on to night vision. Now, this is a pretty medium darkness night, vanilla night vision. It's sort of serviceable. You can see there is no blur, there's no grain, everything's sharp, everything's kind of washed out a bit, but usable. This is a bright night, as bright as it gets, and you can see that the visibility is slightly improved, but generally there is little effect. On a very dark night, that's sort of a similar thing. You can still navigate pretty easily in foliage. We can identify friend and foe without many issues. So this is my night vision. I sort of looked at how Ace does it, and this is about like 5% of the code that Ace has. Turns out there's a lot of code for just showing you the UI, the semi-darkened thing in the middle. I threw it off, and I figured, your monitor is already like 60 degrees FOV. You don't need any more screen restriction to simulate realistic night vision goggles. This is again medium darkness night, about the setting you would use them in. Something that's pretty visible when you get to this brighter night is that there is considerably less grain. You can see quite a lot more as there is more light hitting the optics, I guess. Once again, unlike Ace, I don't do any blurring of the red dot side. In this example, the very darkest night it gets, you can see it's bad. Everything's blurry in the distance, and even like close by, you cannot really tell much. But considering that without NVGs you wouldn't be able to see anything, this is sort of by design. With a flare or flashlight or any kind of other light source, the situation improves drastically, even though it not might be as visible in this video. I also wanted to do white phosphorus NVGs, but maybe next time. Finally, a few words about weapon sight misalignment. I think I wasn't as clear regarding the benefits of this, right? You might have seen the previous video and thought, oh, that's just something that seems really janky, right? So first of all, I sort of tweaked it to be less extreme, to work with designated marksman rifles a bit better, because they, according to Arma, are basically as heavy machine guns. And by extension, that makes it better for machine guns as well. You can see that some of the 3D zoomed scope is a bit more responsive even on rifles. One thing I really wanted to point out is that it feels different when you play with it than when you see it on video. It sounds weird, but it looks pretty bad on video. Like, it's about making the game frustrating and by extension sort of making life difficult for the player and making them miss more often. But for me, it's quite the opposite. Like, weapons feel heavier even when not in combat phase. They sort of don't follow your camera as close, giving them sort of this more realistic feel. Like, they are not as glued to a fixed position on your screen. So it's something you have to try, not see on a video. It's very tactile. It took me about half an hour to sort of appreciate that. It's not very like realistic, right? I own a rifle-ish gun and a red dot sight on it, and I know it's more about, like, you know, holding your stock against your shoulder and just rotating the top half of your body, and it stays aligned most of the time. It doesn't just, you know, swing left and swing right like here. But it's sort of halfway there, halfway towards the realistic way. One advantage I guess I didn't mention is that this works by making weapons sort of have more inertia. Game think they have more inertia, which makes them like sort of heavier and so stabilizes your, not your aim, I guess, but the camera shaking when you're walking and shooting, or aiming and shoot, or walking and aiming. That's a nice benefit because you know, in real life your head doesn't shake as much because your brain stabilizes stuff. It also emphasizes setup for machine guns. Even though this MX is a light machine gun, you could see it aims much better when set up on a bipod. So that's something, I guess, you cannot run and shoot very easily with heavier guns and shoot consistently accurately. But I think the most important thing, which is nicely visible in this last clip, it's a bit longer, but like 1 more minute, is that I found myself shooting much more intuitively where the gun points roughly. So that I wasn't following a center of the screen, you know, green dot or a fixed texture, 2D texture or something like that. It feels like you cannot rely on your gun being perfectly aligned and just aim. You have to sort of intuitively aim and shoot and maybe spray a little, and that makes it a bit more sort of visceral feeling, right? Especially when full auto, when you're shooting bursts. And you'll see this like in the last minute here, what I mean. But to me, it just results in a more immersive gameplay, not a more difficult gameplay. So yeah, here is what I mean. So yeah, that's just a few words. Give it a shot and see if you like it. If not, no big deal. But yeah, it was created for a reason, and I kind of like it. Anyway, take care and have a nice day, evening, whatever. Goodbye.
Copy, I'm on him! Target's down!